Hello everyone, welcome back to another video with me, Mystical Plays, and today we have a topic that I've been meaning to cover for a long time. We've got gradients, and gradients, they're sort of like the new trend of Minecraft building, right? Every single build you see these days, you got a gradient, right? It's not going away anytime soon. Why? Because they're just absolutely amazing. So today, we're going to cover gradients, and not to keep blabbling on about nothing, let's get straight to it. So the first thing I would like to show you is that we have two different kinds of gradients, right? We have a gradient from a lighter shade of one color to a darker shade of the same color. That's probably like a standard gradient, but you can also have a gradient from one color to another color and even to another color, right? 3 colors, 2 colors, 5 colors, right? So those are the two main kind of gradients that get used, right? You can also have something in between, kind of like this one, right? Like this is darker than this, obviously. So you also did transition to a darker color, but you also transitioned to a different color. But this is something just to keep in mind. And also I found a use for sponge, people. Transitioning from yellow to green, sponge and wet sponge. Oh my goodness. Sponge has a use now, and I never use sponge for building. I might actually start doing that. And so here I have the same thing that you have over there. It's just now I'm going to go over how you can actually do the transition, and there's two ways of doing that as well. This is obviously not a great, I mean it is a gradient, but it's not done very well because the transition is quite abrupt at some spots. I mean, as you can see here, there's clearly a border between all of these, and you can visually see it. Now, it can look good maybe in some modern builds, but usually you'll go to one of these kinds of gradients, right? So make sure not to have too many flat lines, right? No visible borders. We want to sort of blur it up a little. So one way of doing this is, well, like this, right? Where you have, as you can see, you mix the colors in together, right? You have like nearly these checkerboard patterns at the border so that you can't really see the border, so it fuzzes up the border, you can't really see it. And this kind of gradient works well. This is probably the most standard kind you'll see. But then there's also this one where there's no actual overlapping of the colors, as you can see here, but it's more like longer streaks and then long streaks down. So like it's a bit of a spiky kind of way of doing it, right? So this is like a more of a fuzzy way, and this is more like a spiky way. They both work as gradients. I personally prefer this one because this is used for gradients with like moisture and stuff like that. Right? Like if there's been moisture running down a wall, right? Then this is the kind of gradient you would have, right? Like this sort of droopy effect. Rather than over here, this might be for like a castle wall where you just have a gradient going up, like a gradual gradient. And you just want a gradient. You don't want it to tell like a story, right? It makes sense in my head anyway, okay? But also it always helps, you know, to get as many different shades of a certain color as you can. Because as you can see here, I have only 3 shades of gray. And it doesn't really look as good as this one, right? Where you have multiple, like 5 shades or 6 shades, right? Because you can clearly still see that there's a big contrast here and there's a big contrast there. So, I mean, it can work from a distance. Like the further away you go, the better it works. That's the key with gradients, is especially if they're on like a larger surface, right? The larger it is and the further away you are, the smoother the transition can be, right? That's what we try to do with gradients. So this is not very smooth. I mean, it kind of works a little bit, but not really too well. Like, so try and mix in some other shades if you can, right? If there's other shades available. So now over here we have gradients in practice, right? So we have a few houses, and of course we're going to start off with the bad one, right? The one without the gradient. I mean, okay, it's not bad. You could build this. I wouldn't say it's bad. I think it looked quite nice. Shape-wise, it's all right. Got these little spikes on the top. That's a really nice detail. I would say, I mean, good job, nice build, but it could use improvement, and that's where gradients come into play, right? Because this looks very, very plain, very boring, you know? The roof's just dark oak, right? The wall's just stone brick, and it's just a bit boring. It's just a bit boring. Also, the chimney's a bit boring, so all in all, this is very boring. As you can see here, basically the same house, same dimensions, just we have a gradient at the roof, as you can see, and this is this kind of gradient, not that one, but this one, as you can see, for the roof, because I want to simulate water kind of running down the roof over time, creating this sort of effect, and that's why you can see longer streaks randomly, right, and especially on the edges, right, just to simulate a bit of moisture, right, and then we have a transition from a dark oak to the dark oak stripped wood, then to soul sand, which works very, very well, and then to pale oak wood. And all in all, I think this is really nice. Also some acacia there mixed in. I think pale oak wood is really, really nice for gradients. But for the stone part, as you can see here, I used this kind of gradient, that one over there, where you have a little bit of overlapping happening, as you can see. And that makes the gradient a bit smoother, right? That makes the gradient smoother. And this one makes it a little less smooth and a little more visible, right, where the streaks of water actually came down. You can better see this gradient at the side here. As you can see, you also try and have your gradients make sense. So under the roof, it's the driest because that's where it's sheltered the most, right? And it's meant to give this effect that there's more depth here, right? Even though there's no depth, it's a flat wall. It's meant to look like there's a little bit of a tiny overhang sheltering the rest of the house, right? And then the lower down you get, the more moss and stuff you get right on the bottom, and the damper it is. Same thing with the chimney. A really, really nice gradient I found. You go from stone to coral and then to dripstone. That looks really, really good because coral is a slightly browner tint of grey. So it works well with these sort of more brownish blocks. And then at the chimney, at the top of the chimney, it's the most worn down. It's where there's the most fire, the most smoke. So it's going to be the darkest, as you can see. And yeah, I just think this looks really, really nice. And we have another gradient here. This house is a little bit more ludicrous looking. I mean, it's very vibrant. It could be like a princess fairy house thingy, I don't know. Personally, not really one of my favorites because of the very strange colors. As you can see, this building has been here for a while. The gradients convey age to it, right? The same with this one. We have a very nice gradient here with the terracotta. You go from the blue, light blue terracotta, then to the magenta, then to the pink, and then to the orange. I think that looks really, really nice, and it kind of also blends very well with the tuff at the bottom. Also, the wall at the top, it kind of merges with the roof, so I think that's quite nice looking. I think this gradient here with the resin and the oranges, I think that's a really, really vibrant, really, really nice looking gradient. I think it's lovely. Then you also have your cyans and light blues, as you can see here with the chimney. And I mean, there's not really much to say. I'm just showing you different kinds of gradients and how you can use them. I have another house here. This one has a bit more contrast since the walls are very pale and then the roof is very dark. And I think I like this house. Maybe I think I like that one better, but this might be my second favorite one. Or maybe it's my favorite. I don't know. They're very close. As you can see here, again, we have the black stone up at the top and then just the deep slate, cobble deep slate, and the cyan terracotta at the bottom, to again give you this effect that there's been water streaks running down the roof for a very long time now. Same thing with the wall. We also have a nice gradient here under the roof. I think that looks really, really cool. And again, the gradients are here to tell a story. They're here to say that, yeah, this building has been here for a while, right? And then as you can see under this here, it looks like there's been a little bit of a leak of moisture going down this, because just this little streak of birch, right? And I think maybe it could be like a hole in the drain or something, right? You could interpret it as that, right? Gradients are always here to tell a story. Also with the windows, as you can see here, the trick with the windows is, as you can see under the windows, it's a little bit darker than the rest of the wall. That's meant to symbolize moisture as well, right? There's more moisture coming out of the windows, right? So that's why gradients don't really work on builds that are supposed to look new, supposed to look modern, because gradients represent age on the build, right? They usually represent age. You can tell this is an old house, right? And all of these are very old. And again, here is a bit more of a out there, exotic kind of colored house. And it's basically the same story as all the rest of them. We have a gradient on the roof, this time starting with a lighter color on the top and a darker color at the bottom, to maybe make it look like, you know, some of the color's been washed away, right? Like it's sort of gotten brighter in the sun or something like that, right? Although an important thing to note is that gradients, when they go from a darker color at the bottom to a lighter color at the top, they make your build look taller, and then the other way around when it's the other way around, right? So that's just something to keep in mind. So this has a bit of more of a desaturated orange kind of vibe. That's why it looks a bit more realistic than that one over there, this very vibrant house. This one's less vibrant and just looks more realistic, right? That's something to keep in mind, is that if you want your builds to look more realistic, maybe make them look a bit depressed. So that's basically all you really need to know about gradients. And if you have any questions, let me know in the comments. I might try to answer them if I left something out. And